March 20th, 2024 meeting of the North Allegheny School Board. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will start with our calendar review. We had an executive session on February 28th for a personnel matter and on March 13th for a personnel matter. We have our work session tonight with the Health and Physical Education Curriculum Review presentation and our NA Empower annual report. Next week, we have our regular voting meeting. And we will start with that Health and PE Curriculum Review presentation. Dr. Hiley?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Smith, who is leading this fantastic department, a leader in not only in the Western Pennsylvania area, not only the state, but in the country. Premier health and physical education department, and I think they have some wonderful things that they want to share about the good work that they all do. So, Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. I would like to thank the board for giving us this opportunity tonight to review the curriculum review process for our health and physical education department. With us tonight, we have representatives from the team that were part of the process, and we started this in September and just wrapped everything up a couple weeks ago, but it was an incredible journey. Definitely students were the focus of this journey, and we're very proud of the work that we're presenting to you tonight. As with previous presentations, we plan to talk a little bit about the background of the department, some of the accomplishments, and then share with you the recommendations being made through this curriculum review process. Our two team members joining me tonight, Dean Baroniak, our elementary facilitator, and David Schmidt, our department chair for the team. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Schmidt, or Dean, starting on.
So first, just a little bit of thanks again for the opportunity to just speak and to share some of the things that we are so passionate about and that we get to do day in and day out. So a couple of our more recent accomplishments that we wanted to share is just recently we had the opportunity, we've been working with Slippery Rock University, and they're publishing a book with Human Kinetics. It's a new book. It should be released later this year. And it highlights some of the best programs in the country. And we had the opportunity to go and be a part of that book and tell our wellness story and just kind of share how our health and physical education program works. So that should be coming out in the next year. We also have a lot of really nice relationships with them where we get to go up and we advise them of just some trends in health and physical education, as well as working with their student teachers. We created, this is our 5th year now, the North Hills Community Outreach. This is our favorite charity. Again, we started this 5 years ago where we just wanted our own outreach fundraising program, and we landed on them. We just loved their message of people helping people. So they awarded our department the 2021 People Helping People Award, which is their highest achievement, their biggest award for just making the biggest impact in the community and the areas around us. We're really, really proud of that. Also, a big thank you to the NA Foundation. We recently have 38 new Trek mountain bikes and a beautiful bike trailer. The bike trailer travels to 4 different elementary schools, and the other buildings have their own bikes. So every elementary student now has biking and is exposed to that lifelong activity, which is really awesome. The success stories and all the emails that my child can ride now and we love biking has just been a tremendous success, and we just love it. So again, a big thanks to the NA Foundation for that. We have an amazing staff, passionate, caring, just loving what we do, and 5 of our members are PA Teachers of the Year. And in the last 16 years, our department raised $787,647. And just a couple of the pictures up there are just highlighting a few of the things. First, we achieved a PEP grant, which stands for Physical Education for Progress. And that gave us the opportunity for the canoes that you see at the high school, secondary, physical fitness, weight rooms in every secondary building now. We've had a few Fuel Up to Play 60 grants where our students had the opportunity to go to, at the time, Heinz Field, meet with the Steelers, talk fitness, talk nutrition, and that grant also brought us some tower gardens, some rollerblades, and just various equipment throughout the building, so just another awesome experience. And you can see the first picture there, that is the bike trailer. We designed that with our maintenance staff, and huge shout out to them. Every bike can hang and is secured, so we can easily transport that from building to building, so all the students experience biking. So I'm going to turn our philosophy over to Dave, and we're going to kind of bounce back and forth.
Thank you. As everybody said, we've done a lot more tweaking than recreating what we're doing. But I just want to take a moment. I'm really proud of this philosophy. We kind of had a turn towards youth in our curriculum review team this time around. We have some new people that weren't involved in the past and really brought a lot of energy to it. But this is probably the biggest change, just in our philosophy. So it says, our philosophy is to empower students on their unique journey to wellness. Recognizing individuality, our diverse curriculum aims to guide students to find personal meaning and connection to movement. We prioritize physical activity for well-being, socialization, mental health, and stress management. We guide students to identify intrinsic motivation, individual pace, and intensity. We offer a variety of activities cultivating connections with ourselves and others. Ultimately, we strive to promote a commitment to lifelong learning and overall well-being. You might remember your experiences in PE, and I hope they were positive, but unfortunately for a lot of people, they weren't. People were in their panic zone instead of in their stretch zones where we want them to be. Sometimes now they're in their comfort zones a little more than we want them to be. We want to be in that stretch where we're learning, and that's what we're going to try to do, is positively encourage students as they go through, just like when Tess here went through, former students. Nice to see you up here. The background of PE and where we're coming from, the trends in physical education. This is something we worked, again, closely with Slippery Rock. They came down and presented to us, Drs. Hannah Hall and Randy Nichols. The big national trend is that PE is, the two big national trends now, is the influencer of school wellness. And the school wellness is about empowering the school, the community, and the whole school, the whole community, the whole child to pursue their wellness through lots of different areas that kept coming up again and again as we had student focus groups this time around. Last time we did a curriculum review, we surveyed parents, community. This time around, we had a focus group in every school. And what came around again and again was that need for wellness. And we'll come back to details there. But that social emotional learning and how students feel about their activity and how they realize how physical activity can be something they get to do. Like Dean said earlier, it's not what they have to do, it's what they get to do that can help them to move forward and have a better quality of life. The background, this is the benefits that we feel. We talk about physical fitness, and that used to be, years ago in our reviews, that was our biggest focus, was fitness. And while that's still important, that's a byproduct of all the other things we do. We're hoping to make sure they feel increased energy and vitality, that they reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, they have opportunity to build relationships through physical activity, they've improved cognitive function, improved sleep, and improved quality of life. And if they're touching base with those, and when we debrief after classes, if they're tuning into those areas of their life, they're more likely to be active for a lifetime, which leads to a healthy lifetime. And within their goals and their lens, which we'll talk about later. I love this word cloud that Mr. Smith created for us. He basically took the philosophy and put it in the word cloud, and as you can see, there's no accident that students came out as the biggest focus of what we're doing. It's about the students, it's about their health, being physical in a way that that helps guide them towards a lifetime of fitness and well-being. Getting into our recommendations, we kept it simple. I think last time we had 12 recommendations. Our last review, we're down to 5 this time. We tried to tweak and stay focused on the important messages of what we teach. Recommendation 1, we want to implement best practices in the Meaningful Health and Physical Education Model, MPE, throughout instructional units and lessons. Meaningful Physical Education, from my friends who were at our national convention last week, was the headline. That was the buzz of the whole convention. People around the country are trying to catch up with what we started a couple of years ago. We brought in Dr. Scott Kretschmar, who's a professor emeritus from Penn State University. He came in free of charge, spent the day with our department last spring talking about this. He's the founder of this model and since he's retired. Other people have run forward with it, but the idea is it's about providing an opportunity to tweak what we do. It's not changing our curriculum, but it's looking at our curriculum through different lenses, trying to be very deliberate in how we teach to give kids opportunities to enjoy their activities in different ways and to connect with them in a more meaningful way. Rather than us as teachers, we all come from a certain lens. We love physical activity, we loved challenging ourselves and pushing ourselves, and now what we're finding over time is, well, that's a great thing. We also want to balance that out with looking through student lenses who might not have the love of activity that we have, might not want to push themselves as hard as we do. And frankly, the longest lived people, if you look in the Blue Zone studies around the world, are active throughout the day. They're not just about exercise and working out. That's great if that's what you want to do, but we're going to look through different models. So you see us hiking, you see us biking, you see us outside doing different type of activities that are lifestyle in nature, as well as fitness activities. And for our next recommendation, we're back to Dean for a moment.
So recommendation number 2 is to identify any additional opportunities to increase physical activity and social connection. And as Dave mentioned, the picture up there, that is from our 2018-19 curriculum review, and it really supports our student focus groups that we surveyed this year. So what I want to point out is approximately 89%, and again, this was 4th grade parents that we surveyed, wanted more physical activity time throughout the day and wanted more physical activity and physical education throughout the day as well. We know the many benefits of physical activity, not just on our body, like Dave mentioned, but also for the brain, firing our neurons to be focused, and there's just such a strong connection to the social connection as well, right? Some of your best friends might have been somebody on your sport team, might be somebody that you can walk with, take a hike with, run with, and just building those connections through physical activity. The survey that we took this year was student-focused, and the same information came up. This was the number one thing that our students said is we want more time throughout the day to be active. So great to hear it from both the students and the parents as well.
Our recommendation number 3 is to refine the K-12 scope and sequence of the health and physical education curriculum and activities to align with major strands in the Shape America standards. That's been hard to do over the last several years, because our Pennsylvania standards have been done and waiting for approval for about 4 years now, and still haven't been approved by the state of Pennsylvania yet, Department of Education. Our national standards were in process at that time. Our new national standards were just announced last week at the National Convention. There's no major changes. A lot of things are tweaked, similar to our curriculum review being tweaked. The new standards that came out are very similar to what we had before, so no major shakeups or changes. But we've been putting it on the back burner and updating our scope and sequence for that reason. And the length of our brevity, the brevity of our curriculum review didn't have time to do that now, and we have access to the materials. Now that we do, next year, that'll be one of our biggest projects is 3 or 4 of our days in our department meetings, we'll be looking at rewriting our curriculum, updating everything to current terms. So as our new teachers come in, they have access to written curriculum that is updated and current. Our recommendation number 4, enhancing secondary scheduling and course progression. When we did our focus groups, the kids said again and again about we sit too much, we're not physically active enough, we need to get up and move more. And this is part of that, I guess. But it's also listening to them about wanting more choice, a little more autonomy in what we do. We have a curriculum at NAI that is 2 years and it repeats itself. At NASD, they have a 2-year cycle. We want to try to better sequence it from 9th grade through 10th grade, a year 1 and year 2 curriculum, so they're getting exposed to more activities. We also want to give them more choice. So what we're looking at doing is designing a way, just maybe pilot next year or work on at small pieces, in shortening up the units that we currently teach to allow at the end of each 9 weeks or at the end of each semester for student choice activities, where they can take the things that they've learned throughout that grading period and dive deeper. And so they're getting exposed to a lot of things at the high school that they don't get anywhere else, at NAI that they don't get at the middle schools. So as they're building from one level to the next, they have all these repertoire of things, but they haven't had a chance to dive deeper. So the autonomy will allow them to select a unit, whether it's mountain biking, hiking and camping, and getting out in nature more, or maybe they're more fitness focused. But that's up to the individual students, again, with the meaningful PE, looking at it through their lens. Recommendation 5, back to Dean.
So recommendation number 5, we're going to update our current adaptive physical education classes with, it's a newer model, it's called Unified Physical Education. So right now, every one of our buildings is fortunate that we have an adaptive physical education class in addition to our regular physical education class. So we saw this as a great opportunity for leadership and just the students to come together and just share that, share a bond and just have that welcoming, learning, inclusive environment where we're bringing in helpers, students who are interested in a leadership opportunity to come in and maybe help some of our adapted students. And we started to do this at a few of the buildings, and you can see a couple of the pictures up there, but it has been extremely rewarding for both sets of students, for our adapted physical education students as well as our leaders. So we're just looking to kind of continue to build that and bring in more students and just continue to take that where eventually maybe some of these students, if they want to go into the field, if they want to work with the Special Olympics, it'll just eventually bring some additional opportunities as well as bring the schools together just to foster that great learning environment. And one thing I did forget to say was on the adding social connections and additional physical activity time. When we were doing our research, a couple of the top schools, we looked at Finland, and they have every 45 minutes to an hour over there, they take an activity break. And they found just the benefits, again, not just physical, but mental and socially on the students have been just tremendous. So that pretty much wraps it up. Again, I want to say a huge thank you. The staff here, I learn something from them every day I get to see them. It's just such a caring, passionate staff of teachers. So we'll open it up for comments, and thank you again for the opportunity to present.
Thank you so much. Do any board members have comments or questions? Dr. Gibbs?
Thank you. I don't know why I'm always the one to start, but so I have two comments and then a question. So one, I just wanted you to share with you. I was talking with my daughter, my oldest daughter, not too long ago, and I asked her what are some of her more memorable things about NA that she remembers liking, and the first thing she came up with was the physical education program. So for her, it was a really positive experience. I just wanted to share that with you. So kudos to you all for that. Secondly, I want to say I was very happy to read this report. I found it a lot in there that I like. I particularly like, you talk about the 4 pillars. You have this emphasis not only on physical fitness, but on sociality and mental health. I really like that. I like the recommendations, particularly I think in recommendation number 3, you talk about having health as a pullout as opposed to the way it is now, or having a separate course as opposed to the way it is now. I'm not sure how big a lift that is, but I think that's a really good idea. But and I was reading all this, and these are really great ideas, but I'm wondering what the next step is. So like this really isn't a plan, right? Because there's no timeline of implementation and so forth. So I'm wondering what happens next in the process. How does this go from these great ideas to implementation, and how long does that take?
Thank you for your question and your kind words about your daughter's experience. That's one of the reasons we scaled it back this time around. We had 12 recommendations last time, and some of them did get lost. And first thing we did at our first meeting was go back and look at our last curriculum review, what we accomplished, what we didn't accomplish, and we didn't accomplish everything that was in that. So we tried to scale it back, and we do have a plan. What we're going to be doing now, that scope and sequence analysis in recommendation 2, I believe it was to go back and specifically with the health skills we want to interject, focus groups ask for more help at the senior high school. It wouldn't be a separate course, but what it would be is taking some time, some of that extra time we create by shortening up units would be a chance to have specific lessons that are student-driven that we can add into health lessons at the senior high in all of our PE classes from 6th grade to 12th. We have some pull-outs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. We want to try to minimize those and get kids as physically active as possible and teach more mini lessons. For instance, at NAI right now, we'll often have the kids come in, do an instant activity where they're getting a warm-up in right away, and then we'll do a short health lesson. If it's on nutrition, for instance, we're talking about the dangers of dieting. We don't want our kids going on weight loss diets. We want them crowding out more unhealthy foods with more close to nature foods, and eating more good food, not cutting so much, and getting that positive message. So we try to do that throughout our curriculum, and that's the goal with the sequencing, is to be more deliberate in the way that we do that. As we started off, we have a lot of passionate teachers that want to run with it right away. Well, we just want to make sure that we have short experiences, and that'll be in our department planning meetings starting next year. 4 of those meetings will be dedicated to just sequencing those activities out and making sure we have a more of a consistent message. While we don't want to take away teachers' autonomy because we have individual talents and needs or abilities, we do want to make sure that, okay, at this grade level, we're working on this strand and this topic in this way. So we're being consistent, we're not contradicting each other. We're going, most importantly, with best practices, what's out there. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Mr. McClure?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Recommendation number 5 has the picture of the adaptive bike on there. We just have the one of those? Or,
Actually, no, that's our newest. Again, thanks to the foundation, that's our newest adapted bike. Right now, we have 2 side-by-side models where students can ride side-by-side on one bike. And then we also have, I believe, 3. I think we had 3, now we have 4 with the new one. Okay, so 4 of the model you see there. 2 that are a little bit bigger in size, and then 2 that are a little bit smaller, like the one that you saw in recommendation 5. And in case you're curious, that was this picture here. It's a little bit smaller one, but there are 5 of those. So now, the big issue was we had students that didn't want to share. They didn't want to take their turn. So right now, we have enough bikes so we can have every student on a bike at the same time. Just like we do in regular PE classes, we have enough bikes for everybody. Now in our adaptive PE class, we have enough for everybody.
We have 2 of those different models, smaller for elementary, 2 at the elementary level as well.
okay, and I think the request last year to the foundation was for 2 bikes and you got 1. So I just encourage you to make another request this year.
Oh, we will.
There was a lot of enthusiasm behind that.
Okay.
So that was kind of neat. Accolades to the program. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the event that one of your students put on last year, the 100-mile relay, Vince Fortuno.
Yes.
Put that on down at NAI last year, and he was a senior. Well, lifelong learning here and lifelong fitness. He's doing it again, and I just got an email from him today.
Well, that's good to know.
That it's gonna happen. I don't know that I know the date yet, but it's somewhere on my phone, excuse me. But that'll happen in about 2 more months, so there'll be a 100-mile relay, 100 times competing teams. It's a really neat event for those of us who are runners in here, anybody who's can just do a mile.
Yeah.
That's almost everybody, I hope, but no, that's really kind of neat that your program's inspired a student to do something like that, and he's continuing it on now.
Happy to hear, and hopefully we can work with them again this year. It's one of the things we take pride in, is trying to encourage our kids to do outside events and give them credit for that, so that they can expand their horizons in the real world outside of class.
So thank you. Great presentation.
Ms. Hardy?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Thank you so much for a fabulous presentation and a wonderful report. I really enjoyed reading through it. I couldn't help but note the many successes the department's had getting grants to help fund the department, as shown in the slides, and it's really very impressive. I appreciate your team going to any lengths necessary to make things possible for students and offering some really unique and fun aspects to the curriculum. But I was wondering if there's a way for the district to further support your efforts there in the department.
I guess that's not really one for me to answer, but I will say this in support of our superintendent. I know that when he came into NAI, short story, he came from another district, and to be honest, we didn't see eye to eye the first couple of months. But then we got together and we talked about it, and he saw what we were doing for kids, And he was probably our biggest supporter, from then on, and really supported us financially as well as supported us in what we were teaching kids. So, you know, hoping we can continue those types of great relationships.
Excellent, appreciate that. Yeah, I just really appreciated your updated philosophy statement. I thought that was fabulous, how you included students and parents in your review with the survey. That's really unique, and really enjoyed their voice in this as well. Your focus on best practices in students and looking for ways to better engage students with our health and physical education curriculum in general, with a special focus on including students with identified needs as well. That's excellent. I'm really excited to see how that progresses. So thank you so much for this report, and I'm excited to see what comes next with health and physical education at North Allegheny.
Thank you.
Ms. Britton Dozier.
I didn't want to prolong it, but I do have a question, again, to echo Mrs. Hardy's words. Thank you for the presentation. It was mentioned about looking through the student's lens, and I believe in recommendation number 4, you discuss the opportunity for students to take a deeper dive into different areas. But I'm wondering, is there currently an option for students to select what activities that they want to do? Is there any flexibility there?
That's what we're looking at. That's the specific target of Unit 4, or the recommendation 4. Currently at NAI, we do offer mini units where they can come in and they can have choices in what they choose.
Okay.
What we're looking to do is expand that both at the 9th through 12th grade levels, have students come in. And so let's say, for instance, and this is still a study, but right now they have 9-week units at NAI or at NASH. The discussion is possibly to move those units back to 6 weeks each. At the end of each 9 weeks, they could have choices, and that's going to be a scheduling thing. How do we supervise those properly supervise those choices? And so there's some logistics to work out, but we want to provide them with opportunities to dive deeper into things they enjoy, maybe and expand the curriculum a little bit with some other choices that aren't already in the curriculum. But we're looking at that as something that might be student-driven, that we want them to have more input. If there's something that we haven't covered, then we might be able to add it for those choice units. But it's going to have to be a partnership between the students and the staff and what they want and how we could meet that need.
Sure.
If not, it could just be something maybe they say, well, I really like this activity. I can go dive a little deeper into that activity.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Ms. Modick.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I've been through the whole PE program and I loved it. I mean, obviously I like to move and be outside, but all of the teachers are awesome. It was good to see all the friendly faces. And I think that the focus of it, like from my experience, if I was asked to reflect upon it, I feel like your philosophy does fit what my experience was, even already. Yeah, and I think that there's not necessarily enough focus on mental health throughout the school day, but the PE department definitely is like a moment to relax and exercise if, you know, to whatever extent you feel is enjoyable and really get to calm down. So it's always a highlight in my day. It was always a highlight in my day, and I really loved it.
Thank you, Alan.
Well, I'll close with a few questions and comments.
We have one more from Tess over here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ms. Pagnato, my apologies.
I just want to repeat everything Isla said. I really enjoyed my experience, and I just always remember little Tess loved PE. It was her favorite day of the week in elementary school. And also, I would like to add, for the Miles to Meals, it is a great cause. You should definitely come out. Vincent is one of me and Isla's friends, and I participated and volunteered last year, and the date is May 18th. So write that down.
Dr. Simkowiak.
In contrast to our student representatives, Ms. Chanel made me run outside in the cold every day for an entire year, and I despised every minute of it, except for the day we did the Jane Fonda workout in the wrestling room. But this morning, when I woke up early, did my workout, and then was doing my strength training with the proper form that she taught me, I just wanted to give you guys credit for the lifelong learning and the commitment to fitness that you are fostering.
Thank you very much.
I agree. This was a wonderful report. I just want to highlight some of the things that really jumped out at me that I was really excited about what you guys have done as a department. The Jump for the Hills, I think that is such a great program to partner with NHCO, much better than the previous group you worked with and all those little prizes that parents really wanted their kids to have anyway. The bike program, fourth grade bike unit was what one of my kids is what got her to actually try riding a bike, because she knew she was going to have to do it in school, and it pushed her to do it the summer before. And I know there are other children in that same position, and I appreciate you pushing her to do that so that I did not have to face all her resistance alone. And the unified PE, I'm really excited about you guys exploring that concept. That seems like it could be a really great program for NA, and I'm so happy to see that in this presentation. I have a couple questions. The focus on fitness class that was mentioned in the report, I had never heard of that. I have a grad and 2 kids in high school, and I think I'm more familiar with the program of studies than the average parent, and that was news to me. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. The focus on fitness class is one of the offerings at senior high school. We've had advanced physical education, thanks to Mr. Light. Unfortunately, we're going to miss him, and Ms. Chanot recently passed away, 2 of my favorite people in the world. But he started advanced PE class at NAI back in the late 60s, early 70s, as far as I can recall. But that was our effort to get that into high school. We had a lot of students who wanted to take a advanced PE type of course at the high school, but what we were able to offer is an every other day equivalent of that. So students who wanted to be more focused on fitness, that's the name of the course, and because most of the high school curriculum is a little more recreational focused. And so for that class, they come in, they'll work out, they'll train for whatever activity it is, and there's more running, more weightlifting, more things like that than the traditional curriculum that we offer for the regular course.
Excellent. Is that a substitute for the regular PE class?
Yes.
Is it one or the other?
No, for that one, it is a substitute for that
Okay.
course, yes.
That is news to me, and I think it's something maybe some of my children would have been interested in, and I'm not, just a heads up, maybe some kids don't know about this.
Okay. Well, what we
Or
do,
maybe they're not telling their parents.
that might be more likely. As we do, every fall when scheduling time comes around, every teacher goes in great detail with the kids about, okay, these are your options next year.
Mhm.
We definitely try to promote those courses because it's good for them, and it's an opportunity that, like I tell kids, you get free personal training in advanced fitness or in focus on fitness, you pay a lot of money for that outside of the school setting. And it's just your tax dollars at work. I joke around with them, but it is. They're getting a great opportunity where you have an opportunity to exercise every day, and you're not gonna have that the rest of your life, to do it as part of your work day. So, they don't always see it that way, though. We try.
I also noticed in the report you were talking about adding an additional middle school health class during the unified arts period, and I do want to say I have some concerns about that, just based on how little time some of the art program and that family consumer sciences and that we don't even have any business at the middle school. And so just something going forward, if you're going to explore that option, I think that's something to think about, that a lot of kids do find their place in art, and they find FCS and those are things, and so there's just so little time in the day. How we fit more PE into the middle school when you guys already have every other day, that's something that I hope, if you go forward pursuing that option, that's something that's taken into consideration.
I'm 100% on board with you. One of the things I love, the reason I live in North Allegheny, is I love that our kids have all those options, art, music, the technology classes, you name it, our kids have opportunities for, and I believe in all those opportunities. I think that might be a little bit of a misunderstanding. I don't think we're trying to create a way to not have the pull-outs, because our focus groups very clearly didn't want to miss physical activity time for health instruction. So what we're trying to do is find ways to do that a little bit better than we currently do it, to meet the kids' needs and wants. That's gonna be a study to figure out what's going on. We don't have one right way yet.
Okay,
so.
that would, because I love how you were talking about doing it at the high school and maybe changing the units down to 6 weeks, and then having both that choice, and I assume that could also be maybe an opportunity to bring in the more health opportunities that people at the secondary level were looking for.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the health is so vital. In the middle school, if we pull them out and set them in a classroom for 4 weeks, we heard about that a lot. The kids didn't like it. And it's important, so we have to find a way to balance what we know is important for our children, and they want to be active every day. So that's just something we're going to look heavily into, a better way to accommodate that.
Excellent. And I do also want to echo what
Ms. Hardy said, oh, how I really appreciated you having focus groups with the students at all levels. I have to say I was not surprised to hear that makeup PE was a stressor. That's something I've heard from my children and from other parents that I talk to, that the makeup class does, it stresses the kids out. So anything you can do to, now that they've told you that's a problem, anything that I think the department could do to work to make that less of a hurdle for students after they miss school, I think that would be fantastic.
That's something we've begun piloting, and we'll expand it through our meetings. But currently, we do have a pilot program we're going where students can make it up online. They can do things on their own and document it, share with their teacher, take the curriculum outside, and the school do it on their own time. We really don't want them skipping lunch to come down and make up a class or anything like that. So that's something I think some kids have done that we really don't like either. We don't want that. We want them to, eat their lunch and do what they need to do and have downtime too. So we will continue to look into it.
Great, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys, and thank you, all of you, for coming this evening. We really appreciate everything you do to support our students.
I did have one final comment, I'm sorry. to
Mr.
go
Smith,
back to
please.
Dr. Gibbs, your question with the next steps, the action steps. So all too often, in every school district, you do a curriculum review, and it becomes a review, and it kind of ends right there. And then 5, 6 years down the road, you have another curriculum review, and you look at the 15 recommendations that were made, and you try to figure out which ones did we carry out. So what we're doing now is we're creating action steps. So we take this plan, it becomes a living document, and we work with our team on creating those action steps. So we look at start dates, end dates. We look at attaching people to the action steps, so we can have eyes on those specific steps. And then we have notes so that we can capture history. So when the next team comes through a review, we have everything captured, that we know what was started, how it went, or what needs to change. And that's going to jumpstart our next review process. So we're not starting from scratch.
I guess if I can just follow up. So I'm just curious, for what you have in your review, if you were to implement most of what the ideas you had in your review, would that be a 5-year plan? Would it be a 1-year plan? Or what do you think?
No, it could be more toward the 5, like the duration of the next cycle. So starting off would be, we talked a lot about prioritizing these recommendations. So we would go back with the team, look at the recommendations, begin prioritizing and putting a timeline for that out. Thank you.
If I could add one thing, I think Mr. Schmidt kind of hit the nail on the head when we first met. But I will also say that imitation is the best form of flattery. And when I went to my previous district, one of the things that we did was implement many of the strategies that the health and PE department put in at North Allegheny. One of our proudest days in my former district is when we had 50 bikes delivered, mountain bikes. And that was a direct result of that imitation of the department that's here at North Allegheny. So, those types of things, when people follow your lead, that's pretty indicative of a pretty powerful department. So for that, I thank you.
Thank you so much, and now we will move on to our NA Empower annual report.
Okay, we have Jenna Frazier, Tommy Guess, and Mr. Duramo, who have worked diligently from the beginning of the year and have really taken the lead in moving forward on the NA Empower Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I know they're excited to give their presentation tonight, so I'm going to turn the mic over to them.
Good evening, everybody. Wanted to say great job to the PE department on their way out. Great job, guys. My name is Jenna Frazier. I'm one of the assistant principals at Marshall Middle School. I first wanted to say thank you so much for Dr. Hyland entrusting on behalf of Ms. Guess and I to be up here this evening and speak on NA Empower, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in this district. It's a privilege and an honor, and we are looking forward to sharing all of the great things that our district is doing, our history, and also where we see next steps going with our diversity committee. So we wanted to start with reviewing what the NA Empower mission is, and then we'll go through how NA Empower inhabited its name. So the NA Empower mission is to empower all of our students and our staff to create a more inclusive community that recognizes, honors, and celebrates our differences. We have 4 visions that we set out to strive for. That would be giving our students and our staff the power to impact, more equitable policies, practices, curriculum, and instruction, strengthen North Allegheny's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, identify the needs and concerns of the community, and then support the development of culturally competent individuals. A little bit of the historical context of North Allegheny's Diversity Committee. And I personally had the privilege of being a part of the Diversity Committee when I was a special education teacher. I started around 2011. So I've really seen a long history of transformation and commitment within this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So just some background about in the 1990s, that was when NA Diversity Team was first assembled in the district. And the original committee assisted with creating harassment and tracking forms and processes and the diversity expression contest, which we are very excited. Dr. Hyland came back and he said, we need to get this back up and running. So Mrs. Guest is going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're very excited to bring that back to the district as it's had a little bit of a lull for some time. So the committee has been made up of a combination of staff, administrators, and community members over the years. The committee was renamed the Dr. Marsha Martin Diversity Unity Committee in the early 2000s, and it was named after one of our district late administrators who led the beginning years of the Diversity Committee. A report, such as tonight, on diversity has been presented to the Board of Directors each year for about 30 years. On March 24th, 2021, NA Empower was introduced to the entire NASD community during a Board of School Directors meeting. So some history specific to NA Empower. North Allegheny's District Committee was founded in 1992 to help serve our diverse needs of every student in our district. During the 2020-21 school year, NA Empower focused on restructuring our Diversity Committee. Mandatory training programs were discussed, increased recruitment of diverse candidates, and updating, reviewing our anti-bullying, cyberbullying, unlawful harassment, and hazing policies was a big focus and still is. The inaugural NA Empower Committee included 30 students and staff members from buildings across the district. Throughout tonight's presentation, we'll capture all of our 12 buildings efforting towards celebrating diversity, equity, and inclusion. So here is just 6 quick photos of some of our images that we have throughout the district that we're really proud of. Some of our other history that the Diversity Committee has done in the past and current are our Title IX training, our committee meetings with all stakeholders. We reviewed calendar, holiday recognition, and discussed what goes on our district calendar that we distribute every year. We continue to review district policies. We're looking at how we can continue to welcome our new staff, students, and families and make connections to different families throughout the district. We also examined our current student clubs and activities, and we were able to pull some of those advisors and see what the work has been within each of those committees, such as within our Multicultural Student Union, our Gay and Straight Alliance, and then Positive Behavior Intervention in Schools, as just 3 quick examples. District and building level diversity events we discussed. We also looked at the Anti-Defamation League, No Place for Hate. We took part in Ouch, That Stereotype Hurts in the past. And then as a district, we also look at bullying prevention programs. We're active in our SAP, Student Assistance Programs, the ESAP program, that's what's within the elementary age span, and then our Student Services Department from K through 12. Okay, now Mrs. Guest is going to talk about what our current work looks like.
Good evening. I am very honored to be here tonight and to be talking to you about our current work and some of the future ideas that we have for this committee. I have not been a part of this committee in the past. I am a newer employer in the last 4 years. I joined during our COVID time, so I'm excited to be a part of the committee this year and share with you what we're doing and where we're going. So as we've already said, NA Empower is comprised of a large group of stakeholders: students, staff, teachers, parents, guardians, school administrators, executive council, board of directors, and community members. I think that's really important that we want to hear everyone's voice. We've had 5 meeting dates so far this year, with one coming up. The September meeting was a community members only meeting, onboarding new parents and community members to this committee. And then November 28th, January 23rd, and February 20th were meetings that we had as a full committee, with May 21st being our final one for the year. A little bit of a recap of what those meetings entailed. On November 28th, we met to review the committee's mission and vision. Members of the committee also completed a survey, and then we reviewed the history of and considered the continuation of the diversity expression contest. As a committee, we decided that building awareness and appreciation of all of our students would be really well received in this contest coming back. So as Mrs. Fraser already said, Dr. Highland had left the district, come back to the district, and said this was something he really enjoyed, that he had a lot of great experiences with, and wanted to charge us with bringing it back to the district. And I'm very happy to have been tapped in to bring that back and to help bring that off the ground. On the 23rd meeting in January, we voted on this year's contest theme. We also reviewed the committee's November survey results, and then we determined to prioritize ongoing membership as something that the committee needed to work on. During our February meeting, we reviewed the timeline related to the diversity expression contest, and we created 4 teams. Those teams would be to help get this contest off the ground and back into this year's kind of getting it off the ground and making sure that we are successful. And it takes a team to do all of those things. So we have a submissions organization team, we have a judging team, we have a display team, and we also have NATV video leads. And that's something that we're really excited about, having our students as part of the NATV do some filming for us. Our committee determined that we really wanted to also honor Dr. Marsha Martin. The name of the committee has changed, but we did want to honor the work that she's done in this district and across other areas as well. At NA Empower meeting, we also talked about this upcoming meeting, March 20th, that we would be having a report due to the school board. And then we also reviewed, again, the committee's survey results and future work. Our next meeting will be May 21st. All right, looking at our survey results. So a survey was provided to the full list of our committee members. 56 members were given that survey, 28 responded to it. The greatest survey responses came from parents and administrators. 25% of the survey respondents responded but decided they were no longer able to continue to participate. That would be 7 individuals. And we did have 2 students respond to the survey. So from that, we also asked this question: list the top 3 priorities for the group to work on after the diversity expression contest is initiated. And these are in no particular order, but they are a representative of those specific responses from 28 people. Review and update policies, cultural awareness and celebration, data analysis and reporting, staff training and education, student and community involvement, and promoting the inclusivity and combating bullying. Bringing back the history of the diversity expression contest has been part of this year's major work. In the past, the diversity expression contest has had different themes. Part of my task was to look back and see what themes have we had in the past and what might we want to consider for the future. And so you can see some of the themes that have happened are where everyone knows they belong. We weren't able to find the theme for the 2014-2015 year, but through 2015 and through 2018, and again in 2019, 2020. The more we respect and understand one another, a better world it will be was the theme. In 2018 and 2019 school year, diversity, the art of thinking independently together with the theme. And this year we tasked our members with voting on a new theme for this year. This year's theme is share our similarities, celebrate our differences. I'm very excited that that's the theme for this year. That's an idea that came out of one of our committee members, so it feels fresh, it feels new, it feels relevant to the people that are currently on that team. And I do think that when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's also important to note that there's so much about us that is the same, right? So sharing our similarities is just as powerful as acknowledging our differences. A little bit about the contest name, including Dr. Marsha Martin. Who is she? What was she about? She was a longtime educator. She was an assistant principal, a reading specialist, and a teacher from 1973 to 1989. She became the principal at Carson Middle School in 1989 and led that school for 15 years. During her career, she served as a committee chairwoman of the North Allegheny School District's Gender Equity and Diversity Training Program. She won the Gloria Fitzgibbons Award for Gender Equity Work, the Outstanding Educator Award from the American Association of University Women, and the 1995 Dawn Eichen Award in recognition of her outstanding middle school program. So certainly a wonderful legacy to leave behind here at North Allegheny, and worthy of honoring. So this year's Diversity Expression Contest is currently in the middle of our submission window. As you can see here, our theme is share our similarities, celebrate our differences. We promoted that contest through the district website and newsletters on February 23rd and March 1st. We are currently taking submissions now, both digitally and in person at their schools. We are hopefully going to reach an additional audience through tonight's meeting. Hopefully, if those are listening online or here in the room, you have a child in the district who would like to participate, please encourage them to do so. We'd love to see them express themselves, what makes them unique and what makes them the same as some of their peers. Our NATV filming crew will be coming around to buildings on May 6th to interview and take some video of student winners. And then our student winners will be recognized during the May 22nd board meeting. So we're very excited. We also have a video of previous contests, but being respectful of everyone's time, I will let you look at that at another moment. But it's really powerful. If you've never experienced the contest, I have not experienced it before now. This video really gives you an idea of what our students are capable of, why this is worth doing again. You'll be really, I think, astounded by what our students are able to come up with and the beliefs that they hold about empowering themselves and the people they know. And then I'm going to pass it off to Mrs. Frazier.
Thank you. And what's really interesting about that video is that I actually saw one of the students that was in that, featured in that in 2019, and now she's a senior. So I said to her, hey, do you want to come to the school board meeting? I'd love to have you share, you know, what you've done and how that has inspired you. And she said, no, thank you. But she said, please don't show that video. She's so cute. But it was just so neat to see some of our students back in that video from 2019, and now that, you know, they're up at Nash and ready to graduate, and see all the work and progress they've done. So we're really excited about that, and to recreate that video and to share that with our community as it comes through. We also thought that it was really important to recognize that our students are the biggest piece of this work. We're all here because of our students, because of our children. And we were able to talk with some of our NAI and NASH clubs and activities, and specifically we wanted to find out a couple things. We wanted to find out first, how many clubs and activities do we have that are operating in the 9 through 12 level, and tell us specifically, what are you working on? And anything that's acknowledging, educating, celebrating student culture, diversity, and history within our district. We wanted to know that. So we sent out a survey to NAI and NASH, clubs and activities, advisors and sponsors. And we wanted to ask questions based on how often you meet and how many participants are in your group and what are some of the things that you focused on. So as the data came through, we saw that there are over 40 clubs and activity offerings in both NAI and NASH. We have 100 plus staff sponsors between both of the high schools. Our participation with students spans between 5 members to 266 student members across all clubs between NAI and NASH. Our clubs and activities with over 100 students are our National Honor Society, Tigerthon, Project Water, Key Club, Strolling Strings, DECA, and then Student Council. And this is just a graphic of the breakdown. We had about 50 participants respond to the survey that we sent out, and we broke it down into trying to see what the span was of clubs versus supplementals, activities. So you can see that the majority are clubs there. We thought it was also noteworthy to just mention some of our other clubs and activities that added diversity, equity, and inclusion as a focus, or it just happened to be embedded within their work that the students with their sponsor do weekly within their work or on their own. And this can be seen throughout our buildings, on our walls, through our morning announcements, in conversations, through our Blackboard announcements, through emails, through after-school activities that they're doing within our cafeterias, or I know at NAI in the spaces right outside the main hallway. But if there are spaces within our buildings, our students will find them. And some of the clubs that we have that we thought were noteworthy to mention are listed here. Stand Together, Unified Bocce Team, our Multicultural Student Union, our Muslim Student Association, our Black Student Union, Student Council, Key Club, Best Buddies, our Jewish Cultural Club, Hindu Heritage Club, Specific Languages, German, French, EL Club, Spanish, GSA, Walker Home, and then we have several more. And just some context about clubs and activities, and I'm sure some of our staff here that are sitting here have probably been approached by students that say, and these gals here may have been a couple of those two individuals that come to us and they say, hey, I have an idea. Hey, I'm interested in this. Can I have a sponsor? Are you interested in helping me lift this? I have some other friends that also want to have individualized time to grow this and to promote it. And that's really all that it takes, is that conversation and then a sponsor to talk through some of those ideas. And I think the big thing with our work that we want to highlight and continue to grow is student voice. We want to hear what our students are interested in, and we want to continue to help grow and foster their interests and what they're also curious about, and help guide them through those things. Diversity, equity, and inclusion across the district. We were able to collect from each of the 12 buildings. This is a link here. This should be in the board notes that you can pull up and see. But this is a presentation of each of the 12 buildings. I'll just go through so you can just, oh, we can't see that one. Sorry about that. No, it's just slides, so that's okay. We can go back to the other one. Okay. So within the diversity, equity, and inclusion title there's a link, and if you click on that link, it'll take you to another slide deck that has each of our 12 buildings and all of the great work they've been doing throughout the school year. And what Ms. Guess and I just asked is just put some things together, just a high-level overview, and our community can look at that at their leisure. But it's really just a great celebration of our students and all of the awesome things that they've done. to just show their uniqueness as themselves and celebrate each other throughout the school year. Okay, Mrs. Guest, I'm going to pass it to you to talk about what's next.
Sorry, and I'm fighting a cold, so I promise if my voice squeaks, to restate whatever I said before. Going back really quickly to the last slide where you have a chance to look at different buildings and what's happening in those buildings, you will see, especially at the elementary schools, I can speak a lot to what's going on in those particular areas. I've talked to my colleagues. You'll see book displays in the library. You'll see longest table events at our middle schools. And this year at Franklin, we hosted our first longest table style event where we had different country showcases. You'll see that there are a lot of different ways that each school is embodying this in their everyday and activities that happen outside of school. So please take a moment to look at that if you can. All right, moving forward, what are we going to do? We know what we're doing now. We're working on that diversity expression contest. We're meeting as a group. But going forward, what does our group want to do? And that really comes back to the survey question. List the top 3 priorities for the group to work on after the diversity expression contest is initiated. And there are a lot of wonderful ideas on here, but a little bit to the point in our health and PE review is that if you focus on too many things, then you can't really accomplish much. And so the first thing that our committee really wants to focus on is that student and community involvement. Sorry. And the reason is because, as you saw earlier in the slide presentation, only 2 students responded to our survey. And this is a student kind of organization. We want them to be a part of what we're doing. We want to hear their voice. We want to know what their experiences are at the school. What are we doing well and where can we improve? But we won't know that if they're not a part of this group. And so our committee is really focused on membership. And that being the next big step to take, and making sure that we incorporate and include students in this process. So maybe some of the students that were a part of this committee in the past have graduated and moved on, and it is our due diligence to incorporate students that maybe didn't have the opportunity in the past but are ready to join us now. So growing our committee membership is vital to our ongoing work. This is an African proverb that I think about often, not just with this committee, but in life in general. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that speaks really to the idea of this committee and what we want to do. We want to go far, we want to do great things, and we want to do it together. So we need to build a robust membership where all voices are heard and valued. So student membership, we want to leverage current student organization and clubs at the secondary level. You heard a little bit about all the wonderful clubs that are currently happening. We don't have to recreate the wheel, but why don't we pull those students in that are interested to be a part of this committee and share with us their ideas, their perspectives. Developing an elementary student subcommittee of our grade 4 and 5 students. It doesn't have to be just our 4th and 5th grade students. Our 3rd grade student might have a really great idea, but if we're thinking about student leadership and building that capacity, that would be the group that we really want to focus on. Utilizing students in the judging, filming, and celebration of our contest winners. So we don't have to wait until next year to do this work, getting them involved. We want to tap into that student population now. As you can see, NATV is going to be a part of filming our contest winners. We're going to offer them opportunities to help in the judging process and hopefully celebrate our winners this year. And then building level representation. We've had transition of new staff members and new administration. And so we want to make sure that each building in our district has a staff and student representative. We think this is really important in relaying information to the buildings about what our committee is doing, but also relaying information from our buildings to our committee about what their needs are, what's going well, and where can we grow. The diversity committee had 4 subcommittees previously. The first subcommittee had a goal of developing and formalizing a plan for welcoming new students, families, and employees to the district, kind of the idea of that black and gold experience checklist. And I know from the past, reading through some of those reports, that is something that they did work on and accomplish. So while that work is still ongoing, we know that that has already taken off last year with some checklists and welcome packets. Subcommittee 2 was to develop a plan for reviewing policies, practices, and curriculum and instruction. As you heard tonight, curriculum and instruction is something that's in review most of the time, whether it's health and PE or math or library. So many different parts of our school go through a curriculum instruction review, and so just making sure that, as you even heard tonight, that mental health and students, what they need are a part of those conversations. Subcommittee 3 is really the focus that we're going to have this year, which is developing a process for inviting members of the student, staff, and community to join NA Empower next year. We want to see more voices and more perspectives. And the last subcommittee is to build awareness and appreciation for multiple cultures. While the committee certainly cannot take credit for all of the great things that are happening in all 12 of our buildings, we know that there are great things happening in our buildings, that was part of our slide deck already, and that we have the contest as just one of the many things we want to do to celebrate and acknowledge who our students are and what they bring to this district. So those are the things that we're going to focus on this year. As always, if you have a concern and you need to report something, we have Student Title IX Coordinator, Dr. Amy DeLuca, she's our Director of Student Services, and our Employee Title IX Coordinator, Ms. MJ Tracy, the Director of Human Resources. So if there is a concern, we want to know about it and we want to address it. That concludes our slideshow, but we do want to go back and show you our video now that we know that there was a little bit of time, and I think
executive decision, we want to show the video. And on behalf of the entire committee, I'm going to keep my words brief and defer to the most powerful voices that are still not only represented in the video, but represented in our schools. I've never had the privilege or honor to meet Dr. Marcia-Martin, but I'm sure in her memory, and to honor her memory, and to have her legacy live on, not just in practice, but in people. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the efforts of both Ms. Tommy Guess and Dr. Jenna Frazier in keeping that spirit alive. There's nothing more important than we do. I know, and I clearly remember upon Dr. Hyland's arrival to the school district and the conversation that he had with me as a building level administrator at Ingomar, what are we doing for children, and how do we know that they feel like they belong? And even though they may not all be Steeler fans, at Ingomar, everybody is a Tiger, and we all wear black and gold. And our goal that we talked about as a leadership team is to find and empower more Marcia-Martins so that we continue to preserve and celebrate student voice. So please, I would like to show the video.
Well, I think diversity is a very sacred thing, and an NA.
While we wait to see if we can pull up the video, would any board members like to make some of their comments or ask their questions while we wait? Ms. Blackburn?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. So I was curious, how many students are on your 56-member committee?
That's a great question. I would actually have to log onto my computer and find out how many were given the initial survey. They were students that were recognized last year. So I'm going to pass this off to Dr. Frazier, who would have been a part of that committee last year and maybe has a better idea.
As far as how many students that we have, it's I don't have the exact number, but it's something that we need to grow. I would say 20, maybe, and we haven't had that number
So out
this
of
year.
56 members, you think there were about 20 of them were students?
Not this year, in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was sort of looking at this because I'm wondering if you tried to ascertain why so few answered the survey. You know, only half the people answered the survey. I answer surveys all the time because it's a way to collect data. And to have only half answer it, and then, you know, for 25% of those aren't even returning. So what's, it seemed like very few to me. And I thought, well, students would be an important part of the group, and only 2 students responded.
Right.
We're
with you on that.
Heard what you were saying, trying to build up that membership and so forth, but I as a little bit of a numbers person, I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, was the survey particularly time-consuming, or what caused only 3 questions, and we couldn't get more than half of the committee to even answer? Interesting.
And what I can add too, that I think anyone that has been in the district for some time remembers the surveys that we used to send out from the district level to all stakeholders. That has not gone out in a while, and I know that Dr. Hyland had some thoughts about revisiting that and how we will send out and survey different groups of North Allegheny, and one of those being students. So I think the next thought is how we gather information from all of our students in a very thoughtful manner, and they all have the opportunity to respond to a survey. Because when we have those meetings, they are all after the elementary day ends. I think it was 3:30 or so, I believe. And we know that a lot of our students are busy. We know they're participating in activities. And that time frame is not conducive to all of our students and families that are traveling with students to different things to hop onto those meetings. So that's something that we need to be realistic with about when we're going to meet and the time to make sure that our membership is reflective of the data that you're seeing.
We actually were able to show the video here at this moment. Is that okay to show the video?
Yes, please.
It can sometimes be underrepresented. So I just wanted to participate in something that would bring this wonderful thing into light.
As I was growing up, my mom would always tell me a story about these 4 boys who would always fight. So she gave their mother gave each one a stick, and they could all break it very easily. But when they put all the sticks together, none of them could break it. So that taught me that one person can be defeated easily, but when people are together, no one can defeat them, and they can cross all the hurdles easily.
I think a lot of the times we try to put things in a political sense, and we think of it from stats and facts and figures. we forget to realize that they're real human beings that have actual stories and lives that they're trying to lead. And sometimes, even if it's only with one death or one person that isn't able to come to the United States, that's one life that's being impacted.
If we respect each other and we're actually kind to each other, we're not mean, we don't bully or anything, this world could be a kinder world.
Everybody makes the world a better place, especially if they're different, because if they were all just like the same person, it would just be a boring and bland place.
So I made 2 hands holding a globe representing all of the race putting into the earth and how it really celebrates it. A better world, it will be expresses diversity and expresses unity. It doesn't judge anyone based on their color or their race.
Basically, you have 5 people, all different ethnicities, in a circle almost, and their backgrounds sort of merge with each other. You have an Indian woman in Holi, and you have a Chinese woman on Chinese New Year. You have a Hispanic man on the Day of the Dead. You have a European woman on Christmas and a Black man on the 4th of July. And in the center, there is all their heads converge, and they sort of have this brain, the same one brain in the middle.
Just the past weekend, my grandparents came up from Georgia, and we'd all been just like sitting around at the dinner table, and they started telling stories about their past, and it was just for fun. But I realized that they all had like a deeper message behind it that was important, and I'd seen something on the NA website about the diversity contest and saw how those two interconnected. So I just decided to tell the story about my grandparents.
I wrote a poem that explains how animals and people are different in their own ways. I just put like a world and different kinds of hands, like different colors, and I did different animals in different places. People can be different, even touch IDs, sand, grain. We're all different, but we're all special in like our own unique ways. When people are together, they can never be defeated. But when someone is alone, it can be really hard for them, and they can be defeated very easily. So you need to understand one another to know that if you're together, that you won't be ever defeated.
I think today especially, you have a lot of people's opinions being shared, and it's very hard to sort of respect everyone in a way that takes everyone's opinion into account. So now I think it's important to hear everyone, despite their background, their ethnicity, anything, and just respect them for the fact that they are a human being and they do have their own thoughts, their own life, and use that to come to an understanding. And I think that really speaks to me personally.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. Blackburn, did you have anything else?
No, thank you so much.
Anyone else? Dr. Gibbs?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to all of you and to the committee for the work that you're doing. I personally am very supportive of our efforts to increase diversity and increase awareness and appreciation for multiple cultures. So I really like that this has been going on for some time and that you're all working on this. So one thing I wanted to ask or suggest, I know that our Executive Council will be putting together, working on a comprehensive plan coming up. And I think it would be nice to have some diversity goals as part of that plan. So this might be, your committee might be a good place to have some of these conversations and to come up with some recommendations for what would be some good goals for the next 5, 10 years, whatever, for us to work towards. Personally, I think that one way of creating that inclusive culture is to have diversity in our staff and all levels of our administration. And I think we struggle with that here. So having some set goals and maybe some also recommended strategies for how we might accomplish that, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. McClure?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. And thanks, folks, for the presentation. It seems like number one goal coming up is inviting members and growing the membership and some involvement. And towards that end, I noticed in the survey it mentions there's one parent who had responded who was a not a parent, who was a community member, was not a parent. And there was conversation, as this whole thing has developed through the years, there was some conversation about how to manage the community involvement. And one thing that I had made a point of a couple of years ago was the non-parent community member, because, you know, we have 8,500 students and probably how many parents? That limits our potential community involvement to maybe 6,000 parents or something like that, 6,000 families, whatever that works out to be, out of a population I think is over 50,000 or something in this area. So to encourage individuals, for example, I couldn't be a member because I'm not a parent any longer. I haven't been a parent for a few years. Other than being on the board, I'd be, I get that. But my point is, so thinking broadly that way is encouraged, so that there's people with a lot of expertise who aren't necessarily a parent any longer. So that point, and one of the other goals, and it wasn't your primary goal, but one of the items on slide 23, promote inclusivity and combat bullying, and something that it might be getting a little bit ahead of where you want to be in this coming year, but there's been conversation amongst the board, and I know Dr. Highland has experience with a program called Racialist Challenge, and I don't know if that's come up or is that getting ahead of it a little bit, but it's an awesome program that I know is used in other districts, and it's a very specific inclusivity and anti-bullying type of program that is really pretty neat. It's very impactful. So, appreciate it if you keep those in mind. Thank you.
Anyone else? I had a couple questions, and I was just, in the report you mentioned that this, at least in past years, this has also been, we've also received harassment data in a report around the same time we received this presentation. And so I was wondering if we were going to receive that like we have in past years, even if it wasn't in the report?
We're still compiling.
it?
With the COVID interruption and
Mhm.
some of the tracking form transition between Tyler and Power School, that's still being accumulated. And the collection process is also morphed in times of that transition. But we can get that information for it. We're still finalizing.
Great. It just is something we've done in years past, and I think it would be nice to have that continuum of data going forward.
And procedurally, we've updated our harassment tracking form to be directly in alignment with our board policy. I think it's 103.1, but that has also evolved, so.
That's fantastic. And then this is kind of a tangential question, but, this ties in with our, Title IX related policies. And I know there has been talk of updating Title IX, and it's been waiting for a while. Is there any update on whether that new guidance is out or not?
Not yet.
Okay.
They're promising it for spring.
But they've been promising it for quite a while.
Quite a
Okay.
while.
I was just wondering if there was.
It's delayed it several times.
I know they have, so I just.
There's an election.
Yeah.
Last I heard was February, but it never happened in February. Right. I haven't actually said a month, but now we're calling it spring, so.
I was just curious about an update. And just one thing I want to mention, which is when I see that harassment data, I often wonder is, do our students know that they can report things? And because Title IX is specifically sexual harassment, but also, but any kind of discrimination also gets reported to the same compliance officers. Is that correct? Yes. And so I just want to make sure that our students know they can report things, and they can report things that are small or large, right? And so when I was preparing for this evening, I did a Google search for, I think, I don't know what it was, but maybe Title IX training, and I saw what I believe was a presentation that was given to our staff. And I really appreciated some of the stuff it said in there that said, if you hear about it, we, the executive council and our compliance officers need to hear about it. And that if it's not your it is not your responsibility to make a determination, it is your responsibility to report conduct. And I would say, so that was in a staff presentation, but that would also apply to students, wouldn't it? That you would like students to, maybe the responsibility piece is not as enforceable or whatever, but you would like students to report things if they hear things, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that reports can be anonymous, correct? And so I just want to make sure our students feel welcome, and if they don't, that they know who to report it to, and that there will not be, we have provisions in our policy that that there's not retaliation, and that they can remain anonymous. And I think that's an important part of our non-discrimination and our Title IX policies. So,
just to let you know, Elizabeth, that the handful that I have received, I'm loud.
Can you hear me? Okay. The handful that I have received thus far, just to affirm what you're saying, have been students that reported the incidents to their teachers.
I am so happy to hear that.
Yes.
And I hope that is a widespread message that our entire student body is aware of. And that's the end of my little tangent, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you to Ms. Nicholas and Mr. Cox for allowing us to see that video, which was worth the wait. And we will look forward to seeing you guys back on May 22nd when the diversity contest award winners are presented to us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This is just a sneak peek into that other document that was linked in. I think that it's now visible.
Thank you for sharing that was, I did not realize that was a link to other things, so I will look forward to checking that out later. We will move on now to the rest of our agenda, starting with our student activities report. Ms. Modick and Ms. Pagnato.
Thank you very much. In honor of Women's History Month, the Power of She Club had a busy march. Students and staff were encouraged to wear purple on Friday, March 8th, in honor of International Women's Day. The homeroom who wore the most purple won donuts. Each homeroom was also asked to watch a video highlighting women's history. They sold stickers for $1 each during lunch periods last week. All money collected is being donated to her. Throughout the month, utilizing the school TVs, they have been displaying honorable women in our school, community, and throughout history. Lastly, they have been selling cookies and Power of She apparel and will continue sales throughout the month. NAI Interact officers attended the World Affairs Institute conference on navigating climate sections. They attended seminars, heard from panelists, and participated in climate UN simulations. They also learned about the importance of youth voice in our community and how to work to amplify it. Additionally, in their March monthly meetings, the club made decomposable plant holders and planted seeds as a sustainability and graduate project. They also finalized judging for the Middle School Power of World contest that many members participated in. Throughout the rest of March, they will be collecting clear plastic clamshell lunch boxes and glass or plastic bottles for their upcoming service project. They are hosting an Earth Hour participating activity along with continuing to collect letters for the senior living in isolation. Lastly, Student Council wrapped up their Facial Hair February event. They raised $321 for the Caring Place and raised great awareness for the cause. They also hid coins and leprechauns throughout the school on March 14th. Winners were able to return them to the office to win various prizes. It went very well and gave students something fun to add to their day as we wrap up the third quarter. They're also preparing for their upcoming PIA teacher fundraiser and the longest table event.
Thank you. For Student Council, Longest Table at Nash held an event to celebrate culture and food throughout the community on March 13th. Upcoming events include a scavenger hunt for St. Patrick's Day, a personal care collection with North Hills Community Outreach, and many end-of-school year celebration events. The senior class council wanted me to share that the early bird sale for the senior prom, a night in Hollywood tickets have begun on March 19th and run through the 22nd for the early bird sale. Speech and Debate attended 4 local tournaments, including the biggest of the year at Upper St. Clair. They placed first in the debate team sweepstakes and second in overall sweepstakes. 44 students qualified for the PHSSL State Championship, and 12 students qualified for the NCFL National Tournament held in Chicago in May. Lastly, club officers organized a trip to the Harvard National Tournament from February 16th through the 19th, where multiple teams and individual competitors qualified to elimination rounds against extremely difficult competition. Additionally, and more importantly, March is the month of the state championship. From March 14th through the 16th, they will travel to Bloomsburg University with competitors in nearly every single event. Additionally, there are multiple items for board consideration tonight. The first is a AFJROTC cadets trip to Greenwood Village, Colorado, to compete in a Stellar Explorers STEM competition. The next is a PMEA All-State Band competition in Erie, PA. Then there's the waiver of board policy number 241 for field trip section 6B for PMEA band. The All-State Choir Festival in Erie, PA. The North Allegheny School District indoor percussion trip to Dayton, Ohio. The AFJROTC cadets trip to Port Clinton, Ohio. And finally, the North Allegheny School District PA Junior Classical League to State College, PA. Thank you.
Thank you both. I look forward to possibly seeing pictures of facial hair February results. I saw a video at the beginning of the month that looked quite entertaining, so I'd also like to see how the month ended. Now we can move on to our curriculum report. Ms. Hardy.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. This month, there are 2 items for board consideration. The first is the approval of the novel What About Will? And the second is a student expulsion agreement. Oh, and I just wanted to let everyone know that in compliance with Board Policy 108, the novel What About Will has been available for public inspection here at the CAO offices for the past 30 days. Thank you.
Mr. McClure.
I was just gonna make a comment about that because, I took that out of the library and honestly didn't read every page, but it seems like an awesome book that I think will be a good addition.
Any other comments? I also checked it out of the library. Books in verse are not necessarily my favorite, but I did enjoy it, and I think it will be a good addition to our curriculum. We can move on now to the finance report. Mr. Weniger.
Thank you. This month, there will be 4 items for board action and 2 information-only items. The board action items will be the AIU Program of Services budget, the budget transfers, and student expenditures for January, and the accounts payable list. And then information-only items are the ending cash balances for February and the February forecast, which we're still showing about a $4 million budget surplus projection. So that's all good.
Any comments on the finance report? Okay. Moving on to the human resources report. Ms. Britton Dozier.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. We will have 12 items for board action next week as follows: 1, resignations and retirements; 2, separation agreement and release; 3, creation of supervisor of special education and gifted education; 4, adoption of contract and appointment of school police officers; 5, appointment of coordinator of academic technology; 6, appointments; 7, wage and status changes; 8, elimination of positions; 9, leaves of absence; 10, recognition for additional education; 11, honoraria and club activities; and 12, supplemental contracts. Mrs. Warner, if I may, I'd like to share some information concerning some of the items in this month's HR folder. Concerning retirements in this month's folder, there are 138 total years of service retiring in this month's folder, including 92 years of service in transportation. We also have 2 long-serving support personnel in facilities, Barbara Elesser and Susan Volkson. I'm so sorry, retiring this school year with a combined 33 years of service to the district. At the next meeting, the board will vote on the creation of the new position, Supervisor of Special Education of Gifted Education. In the current structure of our Student Support Services model, the responsibilities assigned to the position of Director of Student Services have resulted in a disproportionate amount of leadership time and energy focused on special education. As a result, not enough time and attention is being spent on the area of proactive and reactive mental health support for our students. This new position, as well as other changes within Student Support Services, which include the addition of more social workers, will assist us in better meeting the needs of our students. This month's board agenda also includes the proposed appointment of 2 new managers in our transportation department. These hires are part of the year-long reorganization efforts in the transportation department, designed to improve service delivery and operational efficiencies. The new manager of personnel and safety will oversee all drivers, driver training, and safety for the district, and will also focus on the recruitment and training programs for new drivers. While this is a new manager position, this role is an enhancement to the current training and safety coordinator position that is on the agenda to be eliminated with the hiring of the new manager. The manager of customer service, routing, and operations is a title change and an enhancement to the former transportation manager role, which has been vacant since last fall. The position is being renamed to reflect the job duties more accurately. This role will oversee customer service, routing, operations, dispatch, mechanics, and contracted bus routes. With the hire of the new manager of customer service, routing, and operations, the position of transportation supervisor is being eliminated. I'd also like to note that the board had the opportunity to meet and interview the coordinator of academic technology candidate, as well as the police officer candidates. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge Kathy Nicholas, who is working her last board meeting this evening. And before I turn it over to Mrs. Warner or Dr. Hyland, I'd like to personally thank Kathy for all of the assistance that you have provided me since my very first day on the board. You have always been very kind and helpful and knowledgeable in your duties. You have always greeted me with a smile, and I will miss you. Thank you, Kathy, and I wish you all the best.
I would also like to echo Ms. Britton Dozier's sentiments. Kathy, you have just been such a great, I don't know what we're going to do without you. I have been coming to board meetings for so much time, and you were just always there, a steady hand behind the scenes, making sure the meetings run smoothly, handing out the cards, handling the hurdles that come up at the last minute when we have to put a video and there's technical difficulties, fixing the squeaky microphones, everything you do, and you do it with such a calm demeanor and like a friendly smile, and just thank you so much for your service to the district, and I hope you have a wonderful retirement. And so the board would like to present you with a gift. Are there any other comments on the Human Resources report? Okay, then we can move on to the Property and Supplies report. Mr. McClure.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. We have 6 items for consideration next week, the first being a monetary donation, second, stage rigging and installation purchase, the third being a scoreboard replacement for the North Allegheny Intermediate High School, fourth, proposal for new tennis court surfaces, posts, and nets at Marshall Middle School, fifth, proposal for purchase of fields and grounds mowers, and the sixth, a proposal for tennis court improvements at Nash. I've got comments, of course. Thank you. And I will defer to I'm not sure, perhaps Mr. Kirk on item number 1, because honestly, I did not research the monetary donation. I don't know the background. And we would love some background on why and how we came about a $5,054 donation from Midway USA for the ROTC program.
Sure, Mr. McClure. That donation was made by Midway, the Midway USA Foundation. It's a national organization. This year they've donated approximately $4 million to organizations all over the country. They support youth marksmanship, and I think there were almost 1,000 endowments this year given. We were one of them to support our ROTC program. And as you know, our ROTC program does have a very storied and successful marksmanship program there for our youth.
Right, yeah, very highly ranked and very successful. So thank you. And if there's any way that we can express thanks to them, we'll have to follow up on that some more. The second item was the stage rigging and installation purchase. This is a safety item. This year's inspection identified deficiencies and potential failures in the rigging at NASH, and this is something that's inspected every year and needs to be addressed when potential failures for a safety item. Third being the scoreboard replacement. Anybody who's been down in NAI at the field, that current scoreboard is attached to the building. And that was my first question was, geez, if we're going to replace the scoreboard, I hope it's not going to be attached to the building because we may make significant changes to that building in the near future. And it turns out, and you know, I think the fact that we just turfed that field down there, that field, no matter what we do, is going to be a part of it. So to have the scoreboard now mounted on the opposite end away from the school building makes a lot of sense, and it's desperately needed. It's a terrible setup down there. We don't think could get Mr. Bizzuto to find us another donation of a video board like we have at Nash, but this is a budgeted item and was anticipated. Tennis courts at Marshall Middle this is a resurfacing with new posts, not to be confused with the tennis court resurfacing up at Nash, which is a more significant complete remill and resurface. So big difference in what the projects are, big difference in that there's, I think, only 2 courts at Marshall and 9 at Nash. So the last one is the 2 mowers, which are fairly expensive mowers. And a little background on how this whole project came to be for the information of the board who may not have been here at this time. Bringing the landscaping in-house some years ago was a process that was analyzed and found to be cost-effective at the time. I think we've probably expanded a little bit, but there's a couple of different issues here. One of them was consistency in service. We were finding that the contractors were having the same problem almost every contractor is having at finding labor, and we were seeing a lot of half-done work, poorly done work, unsafe work. So we saw that, and then also it's the safety on all of the fields, the soccer fields. My own children grew up playing soccer right out back here, and there were times where we'd show up and the grass wasn't cut, and there were big divots in the field and things like that. So that was the other thing was creating a consistent playing surfaces, and then curb appeal too is a part of that, getting a good consistent good look to all of it. So anyway, towards that end, the district has purchased a lot of equipment. These are 2 items that were identified 2 years ago and weren't available because of supply issues. At that time, we had 3 mowers requested. To fill the gap, we bought 2 Ventrac units that were available, a little less expensive, a little smaller. And I'm going to defer to Mr. Kirk to maybe explain a little bit about what these mowers are and why these are an important add to our equipment.
Okay, thanks, Mr. McClure. To put things in perspective, I think firstly for the board to appreciate, of the approximately 400 acres that in our real estate portfolio here for the district, we actually maintain about 100 acres. Not all of that is grass and fields, but a good portion of it is. These Jacobson mowers that we're recommending here are high-quality, long-life commercial mowers. They have a wider width, significantly wider than anything we have right now, which is going to mean less mowing time and the ability to do more frequent mowings at the same cost. They also have diesel engines, which if you're familiar with diesel engines compared to gasoline engines, there's really no comparison. That's why all of your long-haul trucks have diesel engines. They last a very long time. We'll be mowing these fields 15, 20 years from now with these mowers. And so we are trying to raise the bar. I think these type of strategic long-range purchases are the way to get us there most cost-effectively. And, you know, we're frustrated by the supply chain issues. We did our best to make do. We have one of those two mowers that we purchased previously. We will be working with our inventory of mowers and fitting those in and deferring and eliminating other purchases that are planned for next year's mowers. And so we'll fit them all into the inventory in a very cost-effective way. So we're not overbuying, but we are buying quality, long-term strategic for the grounds. Does that help, sir?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Another issue that concerned me, and Mr. Kirk and I spent about half a day touring the Marshall campus and Nash, trying to be sure we have a place to put these things. And nothing's more frustrating to buy a new piece of equipment and see it sitting outside or under a tarp or something like that. And I think we've been successful. It's going to mean some clean out of an area at Marshall Middle that is not properly utilized, and also utilization of the structure out in the field. It's kind of hard to explain, but we've found a place to put these things at both Nash and at Marshall. And then another piece of all of this, if anybody was following, it didn't make it into the public folder, but there was a request for a golf cart that would have been up at Marshall for use on those fields for when the trainers need to go out. And we have pushed back and revisited that. That was a $20,000 golf cart, which was a really nice golf cart, and it had kind of a pickup body on the back in case they had to put an injured player in the back. But the practicality of that and what we use at most every other place, I think we can probably come up with something that's a little more economical. So we took that out, and that's where we are in this folder for the coming voting session.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. McClure. Any more comments on this folder? Dr. Gibbs?
Sorry.
No worries.
I have a question, and I have to admit, I have zero knowledge about anything about mowers. I don't like using mowers, so I don't mow anything anymore. But I noticed that the cost, it's just under $120,000, which is about the cost of 2 electric vehicle automobiles. And so I have to ask the question, these days, is there an electric alternative? You know, an industrial level mower that has a big battery that you could charge up and you don't have to worry about fuel and diesel engines and all that?
Dr. Gibbs, I have not seen one that can provide this type of capacity. I promise you we will watch for that. One of the golf carts we purchased last year actually was an electric vehicle. We've been purchasing electric golf carts in the past, so we're tuned into that. But thank you for the suggestion, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, we can move back to you, Dr. Gibbs, for the Student Services Report.
Oh, very good. So there are 2 items for board action. At the next meeting. One is the Wasson Institute Education Center Agreement. Another is the Memo of Understanding with the Educational Development Software, or for us to have use of the District Student Assistance Program software. And then there are 2 items for information only. One, a student-teacher request for a student to have an experience at NAI, and another for a school counseling intern request for a student from California University, Penn West University, to receive intern experiences in our school.
Thank you. Any comments, Dr. Gibbs?
No comments from me.
Anyone else? Okay, then we can move on to Dr. Simkoviak and the Technology Services Report.
There is one item for consideration in this week's folder, the technology equipment refresh, which is Apple and Windows devices for student and staff use and other classroom technology equipment refreshes. This is one of the more expensive items on the board folder, or on the board list for consideration this week, at a total cost of a little over $1.4 million. However, it is part of the capital funding plan, and in addition, after having discussed this with Mr. Cox over the course of the last several months, as well as the Community Technology Advisory Committee, I am confident that we are purchasing the right equipment at the right price.
Any questions or comments? Then we can move on to the Superintendent's Report. Dr. Highland.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. There are 3 items on the agenda for board consideration next week. The first one is the school board meeting dates. I think that accurately reflects the board's desire to start to move away from combined meetings, and it also reflects the board's desire to have another week in between the work session and the action meeting, and the meetings will remain at 7 o'clock. The other item is an advertising agreement with Broadmoor Pine Athletic Association, and third is the professional seminars and professional development.
Thank you, Dr. Highland. Any questions or comments on the Superintendent's Report? I will just point out that there were 2 changes to an earlier version of this calendar in August. The meetings are now listed as the 7th and the 14th, and in December, the meetings are the 4th and the 11th, which is different than the original draft. So now we can move on to our speakers on non-voting items. No one has pre-registered. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come and speak for 2 minutes?
Going once.
Seeing none, we can move on to our closing items. I have no announcements or reminders. Do any other board members have an announcement or a reminder? Mr. McClure?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, Mrs. Blackburn.
He's not even going to congratulate his wife, the girls' swim team and diving team. Once again, we've won another state title, so big congratulations to them. And his wife is the diving coach, so
I better follow up on that.
I will
Put it in the public.
I will cede my chat towards you.
The girl divers did win the top 3 spots at Whitfields, and then 2nd, 3rd, and 10th at states, the divers. And then they pulled the swim team along to a state championship. So, yes, thank you for.
Hopefully she's not listening. But, yeah, so congratulations. And all of our teams do so well, but I always like to recognize when they actually win a state title. So congratulations to the athletic department and women's swim team and diving team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blackburn. Anyone else? Okay. Well, then I shall adjourn this meeting.